And now with the 22nd pick, after the Colts take an edge rusher, Tennessee also bolsters their defense. And I think it actually helps them more. They take a cornerback from Virginia Tech, Caleb Farley. He's 6'2", 197 pounds, pretty standard for a cornerback. This guy's great. Essentially everybody expects this guy to be a starter in a couple of years, probably help out on special teams at first. But they're getting a guy here, again, another guy that was an all-state quarterback in high school. So I always feel when you get guys that were also quarterbacks, when they go to defense, they're very good at reading the quarterback, and they also know routes because they had to know the routes to throw them. So granted, it's high school, playbooks go up as you go to college, go up as you go to the NFL. But I think that kind of knowledge and IQ to be a quarterback at any level is huge. And it's going to help this guy here. He could have been first, second round. A lot of people compare him to Sean Smith, but he can essentially block passes with his arms if you need to, block the vision of the wide receiver if he needs to. He can also run. He's got some stamina. Another good thing about him is he can play in the zone, and he's very good at essentially reading where he needs to go and redirect where his feet are, and that's going to be huge. He also does very good in press coverage, and he's coming from Virginia Tech, and the ACC isn't amazing. I mean, Clemson obviously has been above and beyond the past couple of years, but when you look at the rest of the programs, Virginia Tech's been decent, but no one really stands out to you as this conference is that great. So I think he's got a lot to learn, but the Tennessee taking a 22nd rounder, they're just trying to get someone to make plays and help their defense. Now we get to the 23rd pick, and the Minnesota Vikings, which traded down, a very surprise move. They trade down to take Christian Darrisaw, another Virginia Tech, so back-to-back Virginia Tech. This guy, an offensive tackle, so they are looking for their left tackle. When I look at this, they wanted a guy that they can guarantee can be a left tackle, because they passed on Vera Tucker, which he's listed as a guard, but they consider him to be very versatile. They considered Vera Tucker to essentially possibly play a left tackle position if you needed him to. I've heard it on the radio in Minnesota like all day today and for the past week, but they take Darrisaw. Darrisaw's not a bad pick. They take a guy who's very good. They compare him to Russell Okung. This is a guy that has a very good center of gravity. He's definitely quick on his feet. He could he's got very strong hands, so he essentially could make blocks when you need him to make blocks, and he can handle a variety of edge passers and guys that like to take an angle to try and get to the quarterback. He's very good at kind of adjusting his feet and shuffling when he needs to, and he's got decent strength. So, this is a guy that's 6'5", 322 pounds. You're not going to go wrong. I mean, they got an offensive lineman. You cannot fault the Vikings for getting an offensive lineman. And they also got other picks because they traded down. I think that the Vikings are going to be okay here. If they didn't pick an offensive lineman, people are going to, throw them under a bus, I think. And it's another Alabama player, this time a running back, Najee Harris, coming for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who definitely needed a running back. When you look at, James Conner just didn't do it for him. Jalen Samuels wasn't doing enough. It just, they had Snell. Their running back didn't click. I mean, since you had James Conner step up big time when Le'Veon Bell held out, but he definitely underperformed the last couple of years. He's done decent. He's gotten you some goal line touchdowns and things like that. In terms of fantasy, it's always good when a team that, passes a lot gets a running back because it takes a lot of pressure. Roethlisberger obviously got annihilated last year, and they had to pass it like way too much. To be able to be a little bit more balanced on offense is pretty huge if you're going to be successful, in the NFL and for fantasy purposes. Harris is, one of the best running backs in this class. They didn't know that if he was going to come out first or second round. He's got good size, though. He also, if you look at his film, he doesn't hesitate. He runs to the hole and makes his play, but he's going to need work. I mean, he hasn't fumbled the ball a lot. That's huge. You don't want your guy to lose fumbles. And when you look at James Conner losing fumbles and things like that, Mike Tomlin does not like that. So you definitely need to get a guy that's not going to fumble the ball. He's also very physical, and that's another thing Tomlin likes. He's going to run downhill. He's going to break tackles, make guys miss tackles. He's got some bursts too. So I mean, when you look at their weapons on offense on the receiver side, now you throw in a physical back like Harris, it could only help them, and they pretty much need it because Roethlisberger doesn't have a lot of time left. Their window is closing quickly, in my opinion. So in terms of the pick, a lot of people expected this pick, and I think it's a good pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And another running back comes off the board, Clemson running back Travis Etienne. And a lot of guys I've seen talking about how this guy's explosive enough to be kind of an Alvin Kamara type back. Anybody that's getting an Alvin Kamara type back, obviously that you're just praying to the gods that that's what you're getting. They compare him to Garrison Hurst on NFL.com, but essentially he's a guy that's he's capable of being a 3-down back, but he's also a pass catcher. And when you look at Trevor Lawrence, you're getting him a weapon. You're getting him someone to check down to that could possibly make plays and take pressure off of him so he doesn't have to make a big play all the time. Check down, get it to Etienne, and he can, maybe make a couple of guys miss and make a big time play. And that's what they're getting him. This is a guy that is fast, and he also can break tackles, so he can go downhill when you need him to, but again, he's also the guy that could come out of the backfield and just get you some much needed yards after the catch. And that's what they're looking for here. They're trying to make life easy on Trevor Lawrence, and I think this is a great pick. I'm excited about this pick. Now again, I like offensive linemen. A lot of the offensive linemen have come off the board. A lot of people thought they'd take Darrisaw actually, as he would fall this far. But the Vikings traded down and then picked him. So, essentially what we see here is the Jaguars just trying to do what they can to make life easy on Lawrence. And for the 26th round in the draft, we get the Cleveland Browns selecting Greg Newsome II. I think it's a pretty big time pick for Cleveland because when you look at Cleveland last year, Baker Mayfield made strides. They really pushed the Baltimore Ravens. This was a Baltimore team that finally ended a playoff drought, and they played well in the playoffs to win a game. So, this is a team that definitely, when you look at their defense, one of the things I thought that was lacking was cornerback depth. This is a guy that they compared to Darius Slay. So obviously this is a guy they expect to be first round. They expect to be very good. He's strong. He's physical. He's definitely got some quickness when he backpedals, and that's key as well. So he can play coverage in a big way. And really, when you look at him, he's one of those guys that, when he messes up, he doesn't just kind of reach with his hands, which is how you get pass interference and holding penalties. His feet, he recovers with his feet because he's so quick that he could actually make quick recoveries. Now, granted, we're talking about college here. This guy's coming out of Northwestern. He's his hometown, Chicago, Illinois, so you got to give those Chicago guys them props. But this is a guy that is coming from a college system in the Big Ten that isn't even that big of a passing conference. So, it's like, does this translate to the NFL? Well, that we don't know. But when you're going to take a guy, this late in the draft, and you're trying to bolster your team when you think your team is ready to take that next step and possibly get further in a postseason playoff run, possibly make the Super Bowl, you're going to take one of the best guys left on the table. And I think that this guy was definitely a good cornerback pick here. To be honest, a lot of the defense guys that were picked ahead of him, I had this guy ahead of him in my mind. So speaking of the Baltimore Ravens, the 27th pick in the NFL draft goes to Minnesota wide receiver Rashod Bateman. So we get a Minnesota guy getting in here. 6 foot, 190-pound wide receiver. He's definitely not one of the better wide receivers on the list. They compare him to Michael Gallup. This is a guy that essentially can help you spread your offense. He can make plays deep. He can make catches for first downs when you need him to, possession type catches. He's a big time outside target like Gallup. So again, those out routes where you're trying to get those 9 yards or those 7 yards for a first down. I think that helps Baltimore. That helps Lamar Jackson. He's definitely pro ready. When you think about a guy that's coming out of Minnesota, the Big Ten, again, it's not a huge passing league. They're a huge, when they do pass, they are huge into getting those 7-yard, 8-yard gains, those tough yards, those tough wide receiver yards that you really need to do to get first downs. And this guy actually has some pretty decent speed. With the 28th pick in the draft, the New Orleans Saints take Payton Turner, a defensive end out of Houston, 6'5", 270-pounder. The Saints are essentially in a rebuilding mode right now because who's going to be their quarterback with Drew Brees retiring? You have Taysom Hill, you have Jameis Winston. It's one of those things where it's like, can those guys really lead you? Well, the Saints think with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas that those guys are going to be enough to get their offense rolling and get everything moving, and they can make plays when they need to, and they could score touchdowns. So they look to bolster their defense with this pick, and they take a defensive end, which again, you want, essentially they're trying to get someone that's gonna make some plays, but this is a guy that's not really starter ready. Nobody expects him to be starter ready. They compare him to Preston Smith, so when he does become a starter, I think he's going to be pretty decent, but essentially this is a guy that has pretty good size and length, and if you're going to develop him, you're going to develop him. He has a lot of things to go through, because essentially when you look at him when he's trying to make plays, offensive linemen have had a good job at kind of keeping him at bay. If that offensive lineman had a good center of gravity, he wasn't able to get through a lot of those big linemen's blocks. So if you develop him and you try to teach him to have the proper stance and things like that, he's going to make some plays for you in the future. So it's interesting to see here. So are the Saints essentially just conceding, we're not really going to be competitive? Tampa Bay just won the Super Bowl. They got Tom Brady. Are we just conceding everything to them? Atlanta might be better if their offense does well and their defense doesn't, blow games and things like that, because their defense definitely let them down this past year. Maybe they think that none of those teams are going to run away with it, and they can do what they can with Taysom Hill and with Jameis Winston. But when you look at it, they got a guy that they're going to develop. This is a guy that's hard to grade because he's not a guy that's going to start right away. And I always feel if you're going to take a guy in the first round, he better be starting. So to be honest, I don't really like this pick. And here we go with the 29th pick. We get the Green Bay Packers. Do they pick someone to maybe make Rodgers change his mind and want to stay with the team? Nope, they take Eric Stokes, cornerback out of Georgia. They don't get Aaron Rodgers any kind of help. Now you know why he wants out. They get a cornerback, a decent cornerback, but this is a guy that's probably not going to start right away. This is a guy that's another guy that's not necessarily going to be starting for you, in the near future. He's probably going to be a guy playing special teams and probably playing third string, coming in rotations to give guys spells. He's a guy that might help depth wise, I guess. But again, I do not like this pick. You're trying to save Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the reason why the Green Bay Packers are going to be going anywhere. They're the reason why they were so close to the Super Bowl this last year. This is the MVP we're talking about. I just think that if I was a Green Bay Packers fan right now, I'd be burning my jersey. I'd be like, nope, until you guys actually show that you can make proper draft picks to appease our, future Hall of Fame quarterbacks, that we're just done. I don't like this pick. And it's not to say anything about Eric Stokes. He's a decent cornerback. He's probably going to be good in a couple of years. But you don't have a couple of years. You want to be winning now. Why would you take a guy that's not going to be a starter right away? It doesn't make any sense. I just don't get it. Now, talking about the player, he's got speed. He's quick. He could play inside, outside. The Packers were thinking, let me get a defensive guy that could possibly make some big-time plays, and our defense will be better, and it was our defense that let us down. Look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady did nothing for the Patriots for a long time, got mad, left, went to Tampa Bay, and then wins a Super Bowl because they actually surrounded him with talent. Aaron Rodgers is thinking the same thing. He's thinking, if Tom Brady can do it, why can't I? So the Packers mess up here, I think. It's a terrible pick. Now we get to the 30th pick in the NFL draft, and the Buffalo Bills, which a definite team that came out that, I mean, people expected the Bills to be good, but they definitely, I think, exceeded expectations last year and came so close to making a run at the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were just too good with Patrick Mahomes. But I think what they did is the Bills saw what the Buccaneers were able to do against Patrick Mahomes, how they were able to rush him into throws and keep him uncomfortable in the pocket with their just dominant front seven. So what do the Bills do? They try to make their front seven better. They take Greg Rousseau from Miami, an edge rusher. This is a guy that's again, he's probably not necessarily going to be a starter anytime soon. But, the Bills don't necessarily have that short of a window. They probably have a couple of years here to try and contend here. And maybe they can develop this guy to be something sooner. He was a second-round projection. He's definitely, this is a guy that definitely has some skills when it comes to winning hand-to-hand battles and things like that. This is a guy that has skills to beat the offensive lineman and get to the quarterback. He's very good at escaping blocks. He's very good with his feet positioning, so that he has the angle to be able to beat the block and get to the quarterback. He's got obviously a lot of agility. It's a decent pick for what they probably need when you look at this team. Their offense was very good last year, so when you look at their offense, it doesn't look like they need a lot to do to tweak with them. They could probably try to get some depth later in the draft to just help with depth. I think that the edge rusher is the huge thing to get. You're trying to take that step. They think that they're ready to go to the Super Bowl. How do you get there? You got to beat Patrick Mahomes. How do you beat him? You look at what the Buccaneers just did, and you take an edge rusher. I like this pick. And the Baltimore Ravens, with the 31st pick, take Jayson Oweh, edge rusher from Penn State, 6'5", 257 pounds. This is a guy that, actually probably, when you look at where he is, he might be a guy that's more starter ready than some of the other guys that came before him, including the Buffalo Bills. So maybe, you're thinking about, maybe the Bills should have took Oweh, but at the same time, it's not a given. He's got a lot of things that he needs to improve on, but this is another guy with a big time, athletic build. He's got a lot of strength, and he's got some speed, and speed is huge. As an edge rusher, you need to beat the block, because once those big linemen get you in a block, it's tough to get them. So you essentially have to beat them before they could get into their stances. So this is a guy that can explode and make some big time plays, and he's also good against tight ends, which is very important because a lot of times when you have run teams, they'll throw a couple of tight ends there on the edge to make sure that they can get through. So this is a guy that could also stop the run as an edge rusher. So he's kind of versatile in that mind. So it's a decent pick for the Ravens. You're getting a guy late round that could potentially slot in and help your defense right away. That's never going to go bad. They got this pick with a trade with the Chiefs. And finally, we finished the NFL draft's first round. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending Super Bowl champions, with the 32nd pick, take Joe Tryon, an edge rusher from Washington, which is a very good college program. This is a guy that might not start right away, but Tampa Bay knows. Seriously, I don't care how good their offense was. I don't care how good, the running backs did when they needed them to. Fournette obviously was a good, pickup for them last year. But when you look at how they beat Patrick Mahomes. It was because they were able to make him uncomfortable in the pocket. They were able to get to him, and it was because they had some good edge rushers. Getting depth at edge rusher, I mean, you can't go wrong. The 32nd pick, they get a guy that's just a physical beast. When you look at him, he was projected second round, but again, you look at what you want to get. 6'5", 259 pounds. This guy is pretty ridiculous. He's got a very good rush move. I believe he goes outside in, and he's a guy that moves his feet well for a big guy. So it's tough for offensive linemen to get in their stance to block him. So and again, his strength is pretty high. So when you look at what this guy brings to you, it's pretty big. I mean, he's a guy that might not be starting right away, but he's a guy that might be playing and making plays for you enough as a rookie. And that's the first round of the NFL draft and my quick reactions to him as they were picked. And, as I go down the list here again to kind of reprise some of the things I'm talking about, I think the Jaguars did it obviously they got the number one pick. They got Trevor Lawrence. You got to do that. I think when you're looking at what the Bears did to trade up to get Justin Fields, I think that was a win. The Eagles getting Devonta Smith, I think that was a big time win. I think Pitts is going to be good for the Falcons. Obviously, they have a lot of defensive needs, but you take the best player when you're up there. They can try to shore up their defense in the later rounds, and get some depth for them. When I look at like Waddle is going to be very good for the Dolphins if Tua Tagovailoa is going to be their guy. I think the Bengals messed up by not taking an offensive lineman. I think that was a mistake. I think Chase is going to be very good for Burrow, but if Burrow's getting sacked 30 times a game, that's not going to help. And I think getting the Chargers, getting an offensive lineman to protect Herbert, that's a big time move. And the Packers, of course, what are you thinking? I do not understand that pick at all. When you look at the last three edge rushers picked, I think that Oweh and Tryon are actually better than Rousseau, but I understand what the Buffalo Bills were doing. In the moment, I'm like, okay, that's a good pick. You saw what the Buccaneers did. But then when you see the other guys and you're thinking about it, maybe they should have tried to go for a Tryon or an Oweh. I mean, all those guys need some help, and I think Tryon might be the best out of that bunch, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen in the NFL. Injuries happen. Got confidence, mental game, all that's big time. And then how much the guys spend watching film and working hard and trying to get better. All that stuff matters. I don't care who you are or how good you're supposed to be. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get there. So, it's going to be several years before we can really grade this draft correctly and see how well this draft class did. And I'm going to do that on my channel. I'm going to pay attention, and in a couple of years from now, I'm going to regrade this draft and see how well I did with my initial reactions. But it was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed my reactions, and definitely thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to have more content, more shows coming your way, and of course my monthly podcast. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks a lot.